November 8, 1942. Sidi Farouk Beach, Algeria. As the first American infantry units waded ashore during Operation Torch, they carried a secret weapon that would forever change modern warfare. The M1 rocket launcher, soon to be known simply as the bazooka. Few of the soldiers knew how to use it, yet within 18 months, this $25 steel tube would force Germany to completely rethink its armored doctrine. The weapon's story began just 6 months earlier, at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. There, Colonel Leslie Skinner and Lieutenant Edward Oule hastily assembled a crude launcher using scrap metal and a bent coat hanger for sights. When Oule fired the first rocket at an old M3 Stuart tank, it struck dead center. Watching the demonstration, General Barnes reportedly exclaimed, "It looks like Bob Burns's bazooka." And with that offhand joke, a legend was born. Barnes immediately ordered 5,000 launchers for mass production, and by October 1942, General Electric and other contractors were turning out thousands each month. Cheap, light, and easy to use, the bazooka gave every infantryman the power to hunt tanks. But the weapon's debut in North Africa was far from smooth. The launchers had arrived in sealed crates marked Top Secret, and troops were forbidden to open them until the invasion began. Lacking training, American soldiers learned to use the bazooka in combat under fire. Moisture-damaged rockets often failed to detonate, and the first field reports were discouraging. Still, within days, the 1st Armored Division reported destroying French Renault tanks with the new weapon. When the Germans overran American positions, at Kasserine Pass in early 1943, they captured several intact bazookas and sent them to Berlin for analysis. Amazed by the weapon's simplicity, German engineers quickly copied the design, creating the Panzerschreck, a heavier version with a larger 88mm warhead. By late 1943, both sides were fielding rocket launchers on the battlefield. But the E-2 Americans were producing them faster, cheaper, and in greater numbers. By the time of Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily in July 1943, American forces were armed with the improved M1A1 bazooka. In one remarkable engagement near Biscari, paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne reportedly destroyed a German Tiger tank with a precision shot through its vision slit. The weapon's psychological impact was enormous. For the first time, infantry could stand up to tanks. In Italy, the bazooka proved even more versatile, used not only against armor but also to blast through walls and fortified buildings, tactics that became known as mouse-holing. By early 1944, the improved M9 model was in full production with magneto-ignition and better rockets. Every American battalion now carried dozens of bazookas, and German tank crews were forced to adapt. New orders prohibited tanks from entering. Towns without infantry support and crews welded spare tracks and concrete onto their vehicles for protection. When Allied forces stormed Normandy on June 6, 1944, thousands of bazooka teams landed with them. In the dense hedgerows of France, the weapon was devastating. U.S. Army records show that bazookas accounted for roughly 12% of all German armored losses in the American sector. Although the German Panzerschreck was technically more powerful, it was heavier, harder to produce, and cost 6 times more. By contrast, the U.S. manufactured over 400,000 bazookas by war's end, twice as many as the Germans made of their own version. Even in the brutal winter of 1944 during the Battle of the Bulge, bazooka teams continued to disable or destroy dozens of German tanks, despite freezing conditions and failing batteries. Some soldiers even warmed rockets under their coats before firing. One of the most remarkable examples of bazooka ingenuity came from Major Charles Bazooka Charlie Carpenter, who mounted 6 launchers on his tiny L-4 reconnaissance plane. Flying low over enemy lines, Carpenter destroyed several German tanks, becoming a legend among American troops. By the end of the war, U.S. factories had produced nearly 500,000 launchers and over 15 million rockets, flooding the battlefield with portable firepower. The bazooka's low cost, about $25 per launcher and $8 per rocket, meant that for the price of a single Sherman tank, the Army could equip 3,000 soldiers with bazookas and thousands of rockets. The weapon's influence stretched far beyond Europe. In the Pacific, U.S. Marines used bazookas to destroy Japanese tanks, bunkers, and caves. At Iwo Jima, Marines fired nearly 2,000 rockets in 6 weeks of fighting. Even after the war, the bazooka's design evolved. The M1 Super Bazooka of the Korean War could knock out Soviet T-34 tanks with ease. Its simple, reliable design inspired generations of anti-tank weapons, from the American Law to the Soviet RPG. The bazooka's impact wasn't just technological, it was symbolic. It represented the power of mass production, innovation, and democracy in wartime. A weapon first built from scrap metal and coat hangers became a symbol of American ingenuity. It gave ordinary soldiers the means to destroy the most feared machines of the Nazi war machine, proving that victory didn't depend on complexity or cost, but on simplicity, adaptability, and numbers. As German Field Marshal Kesselring later admitted, the American rocket launcher changed everything. Our tanks could no longer move freely. From the beaches of Normandy to the snows of Ardennes, the bazooka transformed infantry from victims into tank hunters. It turned factory workers into the true architects of victory, their hands shaping a simple steel tube that helped end a global war. In the words displayed at the U.S. Army Ordnance Museum, the bazooka, proof that American ingenuity and mass production could triumph over complexity and craftsmanship. The weapon that began as a crude experiment in Maryland would go on to change the balance of power on the battlefield forever, one rocket at a time.